This is like the saddest live ever, probably. Let's see. I tagged you. All right, so welcome. We are gonna give people a few minutes to hop on our live. Hey, Manny. What's going on? Yo, come visit us. Okay, so while we give people a few minutes to jump on this live, hey Charla, hey everyone, hey Mariah. The last time I used we miss you too, Manny. We miss you so much. You should seriously come visit us. Okay, so the last time I used this tripod, my phone ended up in the very bottom of the pond. Oh my gosh, at the Botanical Gardens. It was awful. So pray for my phone that it doesn't fall off during our live. Okay, it was a bad night, or a bad day. You know, it's a bad day when your phone ends up at the bottom of the pond in the Japanese gardens.
Emmanuel, you're absolutely here for the adoption stuff.
Yes.
Don't even lie.
Yeah, we know.
You know that you are.
We know. Okay, so welcome. And, well, I'll let you talk for a minute. I'll
Thanks.
Let you talk. You're welcome.
So while we're cranking this up and people are getting on, this would be a great time to post comment questions. And the thing I've got,
Yes.
We've got a computer here where we can get some questions lined up. We've got a few things to oil the machine for a few minutes to kind of get this thing going. And so I think we're just going to go ahead and jump into that.
Into this. And okay, so no, Charlotte, I did not die for it. I literally prayed for it. I prayed for my phone for like an hour. And then we got the maintenance guy. We dredged the bottom of the pond with a pool net and a giant rake. And then after like an hour of praying and dredging, the maintenance guy said, okay, I'm going to do this one more time. So he did it one last time and my phone was in the net. It was definitely a gift from the Lord, and it still works. So my iPhone 8 was at the bottom of the pond for like almost an hour, and we retrieved it because I prayed for it and got delivered. So there you go. There's my phone story. Okay. So, well, we just wanted to hop on tonight to kind of raise awareness for orphan care, for foster care and adoption. Tonight we're primarily going to be hitting foster care, just because that's kind of our heart. Even though we have experience in foster care and adoption, tonight, you know, we're gonna dip our toes in the foster care water, and we're going to help define some terms for you guys, because we get so many questions, and we try to do so many lunches and dinners and evening like FaceTime chats and things like that. So we thought maybe this would help. And that this would be a perfect opportunity to answer questions without having to schedule like 50 different coffees, dinners. I mean, we love to do that. And if you guys want to have coffee or dinner, we want to do that with you. But this is just a great time for you guys to get on and ask questions as a group.
Yeah.
So, because you're probably not the only one wanting to know like the ins and outs of foster care.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding orphan care and foster and adoption. I think that's probably the most scariest part of all of it. And as we talk with people individually and couples and families and even organizations, the same questions keep coming up over and over again, and a lot of them are shrouded in fear.
Absolutely.
And so we wanted to take an opportunity as we kind of lead into November, which is
Stand Sunday and Orphan Care Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a National Adoption Month.
Adoption Day.
And so as we kind of lead into the few weeks leading into that, we wanted to take time to kind of answer these questions in a public format to shed light on the fear and demystify what orphan care really is. And so we're going to do like a less than 2 minute hopefully version of our story, because it's really long. We could probably write a book, and we've already got questions coming in, so we're going to just dive into that and then start talking some of this stuff, because I'm already looking through some of these questions, and there's going to be some time dedicated to that. So
Yeah.
why don't you share a very small snippet of like how
Okay.
we came into fostering and adopting,
Okay.
like up to that point.
Okay.
And maybe I can talk a little bit of after we started.
Okay. So, I mean, really early on, before we were even married, we were just dating. So Eric and I, here's a little history. Eric and I have been together for like half of our lives. That's crazy because I know that we don't even look old enough to be together half of our lives, but we have. We've been together for 17 years, married for 14 years. A blissful, just purely blissful marriage. But while we were dating, the doctors told me that I would not be able to have children. So I remember going to Eric and feeling like he's not going to marry me. I can't even give him children. And so we talked about it and we prayed through it as a young couple before we even got married. And God just placed adoption on our hearts early on. Now, we didn't know a whole lot about foster care, but we knew that we were called to adopt. So fast forward, we had 2 biological children. We just totally proved the doctors wrong. Well, not we, like the Lord totally proved the doctors wrong, and we had 2 children.
The Lord's part of our we.
Yeah, it's part of our we. Yeah, so when we're saying we, we're saying like with the Trinity. Anyway, there you go. So we proved them wrong. We had 2 babies, and then after Graham, we were like, okay, this is it. We were finally in a place where we could adopt or start doing foster care. And really, our network in Houston and in LaPorte was like heavy influence on foster care. We had watched a lot of our friends in Fort Worth and Houston. A lot of friends just in our circle do foster care and adoption early on. And so once we saw that there are people doing it who are just normal people. They weren't normal. They were normal people. I'm just saying, a lot of people look at us and think, oh, you guys are like superheroes. No, we're not. We're crazy. We don't even know what's going on. Sometimes my brain feels a little fuzzy. Like, we are just totally normal people.
Normal.
The only, I mean, I don't have the patience of Job. Anyhow, no. See, my husband's like, no way.
We're not normal.
We're not, but I guess we're not totally normal. Anyway. But once we saw people in our circle doing it, it normalized foster care and adoption for us, and it became a lot more tangible. And as we began to work through that, I started watching a little video series on Right Now Media by Jen Hatmaker. And she was just talking about their experience with adoption and the fear and the things like that were wrapped up in that. And I just knew, you know what, this is it. So we were on a road trip. I made Eric listen to the entire series, and we knew, this is it. We are just going to take the plunge because the enemy just kept trying to feed us lies and make us scared and just, I don't know, almost make us not walk in obedience. But we knew, what is normal, Randy? I don't even know. We just knew that if we were being faithful to what God put in our hearts so many years ago, that he was going to take care of our family, and that he was just, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but we knew his blessing would be on what we were doing. So at that point, we actually hosted an information meeting at our house in LaPorte, and there were so many people interested in opening up their homes to foster care. We had to cut off the information meeting because we couldn't even fit that many people in our house. So one night we packed our house full of people to do an information meeting, and then from there we picked an agency. And that was what was helpful in picking an agency was just talking to our friends in Houston, because different agencies have different rules. And we went with Arrow because that's who most of our friends used. And we did that so that we could babysit for each other, so that we could do respite for each other. And that's a really, really big deal. And we will unpack some of those terms in just a few minutes. So that's kind of how we got involved. We knew that God was in it. We knew that we had the space to accommodate. So as soon as we had purchased our house, well, we sold our house, got a new house, a bigger house, because, well, we thought we were going to take 1 or 2 more kids in, but God gave us 3. Okay, go. Is
wow, that was not even close to 2 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Holy moly.
He asked me to intro, like, women talk a lot.
All right, so here comes the Reader's Digest version from then point on. So on our application, we put that we would like to have 1 child, and we were looking for a baby. We had friends that were networked in that were doing sibling sets. Thought it looked like we could do that, so we changed to sibling set. And all the way around, we ended up having 3 kids, and then a few months later, 4 kids, and now we have, with our biological kids, that's 6.
Yeah, we're at 6.
Which makes the Gintherpartyof8. And at this point in our lives, what's one more?
What's one more? We're just waiting.
There's Sean Miniger. What's up,
Hey, Sean.
Minigers?
Hey, Savannah.
So, we're going to take a moment. We're going to dive into this. So if you're just now coming in, put questions in the comments, because that's really what we want to focus in on.
Yes.
Is to try to take some of this and normalize it. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So Charlotte asked, what is the biggest challenge you faced in taking in foster children who missed their parents and had been exposed to so much? Well, I think you said it right there. One of the biggest challenges is that they do miss their parents.
Yes.
And they have been exposed to so much. And so as they came into our home, there's only so much mental, physical, and spiritual preparedness that can go into taking kids into your home. And so the biggest challenge is really trying to connect with the child that may or may not really want to connect with you.
Yeah.
Just imagine taking your own children out of your home and placing them in some stranger's home,
Yeah.
and they have no reason, they don't have any understanding of why they're going there or what's going on, because home is home, no matter how bad it is.
Right. That's their normal. That's all they know.
Yeah.
So to come into your home with pretty much, in our case, it was nothing. With nothing. None of their things from home came to our home. Any of the 4 times. So to come to our home with nothing, to these, strangers' house, it was overwhelming. It was definitely overwhelming for our kids. And our littlest 2, Gracie and Gideon, well, I guess they're not our littlest anymore, but they were in the beginning. They didn't sleep for months. So it was a lot of sleep deprivation, a lot of prayer.
Probably one of our biggest challenges, I think, before we took the kids in, is that we knew that the kids that were coming to our home were going to have been exposed to things, and so we trying to prepare our kids for what was coming, which you never can, but you just try to give them some preparation for that. But our biggest challenge was kind of our fear of how is this going to affect our kids, and that's probably one of the biggest questions or biggest responses or questions or remarks that we get from people is how does this affect your kids?
Yeah.
So for people who have kids already,
and you're blending a family,
and you're looking to foster or potentially adopt, it's important to have your kids involved in the conversation up front, so that this isn't just a shock and awe thing later on down the road, but also it makes things more easy to digest as they come along. So when one of your foster kids is sitting at the table and blurts out something that is mildly inappropriate, or majorly inappropriate,
or
it's
just
not
complete shock and awe.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, and there's grace for that. And so that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And the solution, not really the solution, but the come behind for that is that God is good, and God is faithful. In all of the things.
Mildly.
Yeah, God is faithful. And so just being linked together in that relationship, though it seems very cliche, is just really kind of leaning into Him as these things come along, and knowing and being prepared that there are going to be things that happen in your home that are going to make things uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. It's going to be hard. And I think, as a married couple, we're constantly in prayer for one another. So when, Eric always kind of jokingly says, like, oh, well, I pray and I ask God to speak to me, like, through my wife. But a lot of times God will give me something. But we are praying for our children. And they were so stoked. Like, their heart, it's just neat to see, like, from the beginning, God gave our kids the heart for foster care and adoption. So that's something that he placed in us as a couple, but it's also something that he put in us as a family. So whenever we started really, like, we had always had that on the table, but as soon as we really started, like, making that tangible, it was something we prayed so fervently through with our kids as a family. So it was neat, and it's still neat. And this is probably going to make me cry because I'm a crybaby. We can't cry
on Facebook Live?
Oh, just to tell our kids, sorry, just to tell our kids how much we prayed for them before they ever came to us, before we ever knew they existed.
Yeah.
That we were praying for them, and that Gabby and Graham were praying for them, and just how, I don't know, just how much they were bathed in prayer before they ever even came into our home.
Yeah.
So that's just been really neat to share with them. Just a story of the way God knitted our family together. Back from the very beginning, when he really just started to stir our hearts and make this a tangible reality for our family. And just to see our kids has been awesome. And I mean, Charla, you were there for us in the beginning so much. It was hard. And things happened in our home, and foster care is not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, guys, just bring a kid in. It's just like the movies. It's so easy. It's not. It's really, really hard. You have to work through a lot of big things, but it is so worth it. It is so, so worth it. I would never, ever go back and take any of it back. I would take all of the hard things all over again, because in all of the hard things, we've gotten to see God work. We've gotten to see God heal our kids. We've gotten to see miracles happen.
Hold on.
Sorry. So that's that.
No. So what you're talking about right now kind of leads into the second one.
Okay.
And then I'm going to jump down a little bit because Charlotte asked, how have you seen Jesus move because of your obedience?
Oh, man.
And so let's just maybe, that's a whole book in and of itself.
That is.
So maybe we just take like one example, maybe?
I don't even know what the best example is. I mean, Jenny Kate may be coming to us. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've had like financial provision. So I guess let's do this. So this is a long short story. Okay. So how have we seen God move because of our obedience? So in the beginning we prayed a lot just about our future with the kids, because we knew they came in, through foster care, and we only accepted our placement because we figured, oh, well, they'll be gone in a few months, right? It's foster care. So when we first got the call, a lot of you know our story, but for those of you who don't, we had asked for, on our little application, we said, we'll take a sibling set, 4 and under. Like 2 kids under 4 or 4 and under, and that's it. Well, they called us for a 4 and a 2-year-old, and we said yes immediately. Less than 5 minutes later, we got another phone call saying, oh, Mrs. Ginther, we made a mistake. There's actually they have a 7-year-old brother. We know that you can say no. We know this is not within your guidelines. And so I said, let me call you right back. And I just happened to be standing in Eric's office at the church. So it was perfect timing when that happened. But we were able to sit there and talk through it for just a few minutes. And we knew immediately, you know what? We said yes, like in a second for those 2 little ones. We'll go ahead and say yes to the 7-year-old. Because it's foster care, reunification, right? Reunification is the goal. He won't be with us forever, and we'll just make it work for the next few months.
We always saw foster care as a very temporary thing. We wanted to adopt, and that was the story and the call from the get-go.
Right.
And we wanted to pursue adoption eventually.
Right.
But with our agency, with the people in our network who are already involved heavily in orphan care and fostering and adoption, they were very quick to tell us, hey, when you get involved in fostering, you're going to foster for a little bit.
Right.
And then the kids are probably going to go home. Then you may get another set of kids. It's kind of like this revolving cycle. And so when we got into it, that was our expectation was,
right,
we're going to get in and we're going to get a placement.
Right.
And then, like many of our friends, like the Meningers,
Shannon Julius,
like all
the Sutlifs. Oh my gosh.
Countless people.
Yeah.
That was our expectation was, well, yeah, we'll take 3 kids because in a few months or 6 months or a year or whatever, they're probably going to end up going back home anyway, and then we'll kind of repeat the cycle over again.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so we kind of
So
jumped into that and said
Just said yes.
with reckless abandon and whatever, you know, like, and I think it's funny too because, you know, how do you see God move? And maybe this is where you're going, maybe not, but like, I think God puts us in situations where our only response is yes. Almost like we're cheating. You ever feel like you're cheating? Like you get to put in situations like, well, I could say no. Like when I tell my kids, it's like, eat what's on your plate or go to bed without dinner, right?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like you get put in a situation where I don't know. So I'll tell you this. I think our mindset if someone would have came and said, hey, we're going to give you 3 kids, these ages, and we would like for you to adopt them right now, sight unseen, we would have been like, whoa. Like, that's not the plan.
Yeah.
But as God eased us into things.
Right.
And put the kids with us, and then a month later, they're like, hey,
will you adopt these kids?
would you like to adopt these children? You know, now you're in a place where it's a little bit more tangible.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah.
So God moved in all of those things, and there, oh my gosh, we could write volumes and volumes of through changing houses, changing jobs, moving, relocating, financial stuff, parent visits,
community, the community outpouring. I mean,
when the baby was placed with us, and y'all probably remember this, we put a call out on Facebook because the baby came to us in a carrier and had like a onesie on, and we were like, okay, we need baby stuff.
We had nothing.
And we're still getting stuff through Amazon from that. And that was a year ago.
Yeah, it was over a year ago.
So props to you guys for being the church and stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to send you wipes and diapers and gift cards and all sorts of stuff, because I don't think we've had to buy wipes.
We haven't had to buy wipes ever. Because of all the generosity of the people around us. I mean, it has just been so cool. And like the other cool part about this is like, I think this is like one of the coolest things. Okay. So like seeing God work and seeing God's blessings and just being obedient and saying yes. So not only do we just get to live that out and kind of reap some of the blessings, we like...
It's Dustin, sorry.
Hey, Dustin. That's our pastor, Vantage Point Church. Okay. Okay, so as this is all happening, we have CPS workers, CASA workers, investigative workers, primary care workers, adoptive workers, attorney. We have all these people, therapists, all of these people in and out of our home all of the time, right? And they're seeing this happen, and they're like, wow. And guess what we get to do? We just get to point them to Jesus. And that is the coolest thing. It's like getting pitched a softball and just like hitting a home run. And it gives you so many opportunities to share your testimony and how God's at work. Like, oh yeah, I have all these Amazon boxes. It was so exciting to tell our mail lady, look, we're a foster family. And at that point we were adopting 3, a sibling set of 3. And we just got the baby. We just got their baby sister. And we're so excited. And we have 1 million Amazon boxes because we had nothing. And all we did was put it out on Facebook. And people we don't even know were just sending us stuff to help us because we got a baby with a onesie and a carrier. And that was it. So how cool is it to be able to tell other people, like, this is how good our God is. Like, he meets our most tangible needs. Jenny Kate, like, has never gone without, and she came with nothing. Yeah. So anyhow, it's just cool.
So that answered another question that was on there, and kind of in conjunction with that is in our efforts to demystify things. You probably heard us say, if you get involved in foster care, there's a really good possibility that the kids that are coming into your home are going to have nothing. They're going to come with the clothes on their back and maybe a trash bag of like stuffed animals or a stuffed animal or something. Like, it's very, when they come and take them, they're literally doing that. They're going to come and take them. It's typical. They'll come and take them from school or home or wherever.
Right.
And so that's a real thing. So to demystify that and say, hey, kids come into your home, this is a reality. That's
Right.
not just like that. That's not, we're not over exaggerating that to say, and anyone who's on our page, you know, Carrie and the Minigers, and I think I saw Cammy on there, like they will, you know, attest to that that's a real thing. And one of the other questions was about our agency. Would we recommend our agency? We have a really good love-hate relationship with our agency.
But there are no perfect agencies.
There's not. And I want to preface it with, we had this conversation last night with Jenny.
Not Jenny.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julia.
Wrong
And
sister.
It's okay. She's fine. She'll probably answer to that. With Julia about the system, and it's not the fault of our agency. The system's broken. It will always be broken. Mm-hmm. And you have to know that going into it. That's another thing to tell you, that the system is broken. It is allegedly for you, and in some cases it will work for you. In some cases it won't. There's a lot of different circumstances and variables that surround all that, but just know that as a foster parent, you are the one driving the bus. We use that analogy all the time. You have to be driving the bus because you were the one advocating for the kids that are inside of your home.
Right.
You know what's going on in their lives. You know them better than anyone at this moment in their lives. So their attorney and the CPS worker and the CASA worker and everybody else that's involved, they're going to come to you for information. And you've got to be able to give that to them, and you got to be proactive about it. So that is a big thing. We're going to keep moving on because I want to try to get to as many of these as possible.
Okay.
So, oh my gosh, Mariah, how did foster care strengthen and challenge your marriage? Okay.
Okay, no, I want to answer that one first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is probably going to make me cry again. So there you go. Thank you, Mariah.
You did it.
Okay, so when the kids first came into our home, like, it strengthened our marriage because it allowed me to see my husband love on children that were not biologically ours with like an unconditional love. So,
even though they look just like me.
Even though they look just like him, that's our joke. Like, we think that our kids look just like us, even though they really kind of don't. But we feel like, we almost feel like they're biological children at this point. So it's really hard sometimes. It was so neat. It was just so neat. Just when you see your husband just serving the Lord and loving on kids from hard places, despite how crazy they are and how hard it is, and just walking with us each step of the way and leading our family. I feel like I have never ever looked at him or loved him in that way. Like, I feel like it grew our intimacy so much, and that was good because after the honeymoon period was over, and like the crap got real. I'm sorry, I know that's probably maybe a little inappropriate to say, but that's a really nice way of saying it. It was hard. It's hard when the honeymoon period is over and real life is happening, and you have really hurt, traumatized kids behaving like really hurt, traumatized kids. It definitely is a strain on your marriage. And we had a pretty good support system in Houston, and that, I think, was a saving grace because there were a few people, a small handful of people in our church that so as a church we hosted Arrow. They came in and they did a lot of classes so that people could get licensed, because if you're wanting to do foster care, you've got to do 40 hours in Texas. I don't know what the rules are in other states, but in Texas, you've got to do your 40 hours, got to do a home study. Well, they went through their 40 hours of training to do something called respite. They went and got FBI fingerprinted, and that was out of their pocketbook. They did the 40 hours of classes. And what else did they do? Background checks. Mm-hmm. So they went and did all of these things that cost them time and money as an opportunity to babysit and provide respite for us. So I'm going to give a shout out to Heather and Jason Harvey. We knew that we could always count on them. Shane and Teresa Gatlin. We knew we
Lossies.
could always count on them. Yes, Grady and Nicole Lossie. We knew we could
Miss O'Grady.
always count on them. Miss O'Grady.
Miss
That is what our
O'Grady.
kids call him. Gideon. Miss O'Grady. Miss O'Grady. And then you're making me forget someone. Rose and Reyes Rodriguez.
Rodriguez's. I'm sure we're leaving people out too.
We knew that they had gone through their training, they had done what they needed to do, and that we could pretty much go to them for anything. So when we were in a desperate need for a date night, because we wanted to stay married, and it's really hard having 5 kids and then 6 kids. You have to have a support system. And maybe that can be your ministry as a church. If you have a few families who are foster families or adopted families, maybe you can minister to them by giving them a date night, because it is so hard. And marriages are so important. So give them a date night once a month. I don't know. That's great. We always love date nights. If you want to give us a date night.
I think one of the challenges that we faced was just being on the same page, because she's reading books, I'm reading books, and we're both, we're constantly in this we've never done this before, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot like when you get married initially, kind of working through all the quirks and the kinks of having kids that live with you that are not, like when do you ever have kids that come stay the night at your house, like your kids' friends, and after like one night, you're like, okay, it's time for you to go home. We
love everybody's kids.
I mean, when you have foster children, take it to like the nth degree, it's like, okay, a few weeks into this,
It's
like,
a
okay,
sleepover that never ends.
This was cute at first, but this is, this is getting old now. So there's a lot of challenges to work through, and we're actually doing a sermon series on marriage right now, and a lot of great stuff, living the gospel throughout your marriage, and fighting well, stuff like that. So really, really good stuff. Scrolling down.
What were a couple of ways that the traumatized children are different than children who are not traumatized? That is a good question, and Carrie, I know that you know the answer to this, but because Carrie's a seasoned foster mom, So
I want to rephrase the question.
Okay.
Because for people who are looking to potentially foster or adopt, so a couple ways of trauma. What is it? How about rephrase it this way? What does a traumatized kid look like? How do what you know what I'm saying? Like, what behaviors do they express? And let's condense it down to like top 2.
Well, I feel like a lot of times traumatized kids just get looked at like and labeled bad kids. So I feel like they're labeled bad kids, but really we just live in I don't know, we live in a society that's just not trauma informed. So if you know nothing about kids from hard places, yeah, you're probably going to label my kids bad. But they're not. They're kids who have experienced really hard things that most adults probably wouldn't be able to process or handle. So a lot of times what you see is it could be like a prenatal exposure to drugs or alcohol in utero. Trauma changes the brain. It can smooth out the ridges in the brain. It can affect their prefrontal lobe, and just like that, and that just that immediate like their immediate responses and processing. So they really just can't like do that. They've come from sometimes neglect or abuse. So they live in like this scarcity mindset where they're always lacking and they're always afraid. Because in the back of their mind, even though they're in a safe place now and they know that their needs are being met, breaking that scarcity mentality is really hard. So whether it's just being able to have food to eat or a safe place to live, or not, getting beaten or abused. There's just always this like sort of scarcity that
Jordan said bad kids that are just in survival
mode. They're just in survival mode. Yeah. And that's where I feel like it's so important for us as foster and adoptive parents to, number one, you need to read. You need to read. You need to get informed. You need to listen to the Empowered Parent podcast with Ryan and Kayla North. You need to go to conferences because you have to be able to differentiate behaviors. You need to know why they're acting the way they're acting. So it's like kind of decoding, but there are so many resources available and groups available that will help you figure that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you, as you're watching or listening, and you're like, "Man, what?" Just comment. Just put it all in the
drop
comments.
your comments.
We're trying to get to everything that we possibly can in the short amount of time that we have. So, let's see. Got lost here in my stuff. Yeah. So these are great comments.
Oh, actually, scroll back up. So if you live in North Fort Worth, there is a group called Chosen Ones, and Vicki and Randy Atkins run that. They started it and they run this ministry. They have a warehouse. So if you're in North Fort Worth and you get kids and they have nothing and you need car seats or formula or diapers or clothes or all the things that kids need, go visit them. I will drop a link for Chosen Ones in the comment below. They have all sorts of great things, activities, family outings. They're getting ready to do a great big fall festival. We'll be going to that I think it's the 27th of October. I don't know. Randy, Vicki, tell me if I'm wrong. And people who aren't foster parents and you want to do something, you can call Randy and Vicki and see what they need. They might need a car seat. They might need formula. They might need diapers. I mean, diapers are always a need, I think. Anyway, so that's a huge ministry here in North Fort Worth. They have a support group on, I don't know, second or third Tuesday of every month. Some ladies get together at Kindred Coffee in North Richland Hills and have coffee together. And it's a great, safe place to come together with other foster and adoptive moms and talk real things. Because a lot of people don't understand like the element of hard or normal that's now like normal in your house. So for you to have the support of other foster and adoptive parents who are walking through the same things, who have like this new normal, they understand you and they get you, and you need that. You need friends that are a safe place to go to where you can decompress and share things, and they can help point you to other resources. So
okay.
Anyway, yeah, that's that.
So, we've hit almost the end of the line of the question here. So if you have more questions, put them in here. So I want to talk about one of the things that we hear the most when people are inquiring about foster care, especially foster care. So what we're doing, if you're just catching up with us, is kind of doing a series of videos now and then kind of leading through the next few weeks into November for National Adoption Month.
Yeah.
And so with our personal experience, foster care was a huge proponent for where we are now. And so we want to demystify foster care and kind of give some wisdom nuggets, whatever we have to give. And so one of the questions that we get asked most often, or comment, I guess is better put, is I could never do that because I would become attached to the kids. We're talking about foster care, and whenever they would go back home, like I can't do that. And we watched a video, I guess it was on Facebook or something last night, and it showed
all the notifications are popping up on my phone. I'm sorry.
It showed a lady's response to that question, and I think we kind of have our own built-in responses because that's probably at least number one.
Yeah,
you know, I couldn't do that because I couldn't stand the kids going back home or leaving us after we've had them for a while. The other one is, you know, how's it going to affect our kids? I think it's probably the second most.
Yeah.
And so to speak to the first one, and Sean brought it up in the comments, Sean Manger did earlier, one of the comments that we say quite often is, God loves these kids more than we do. God loves these kids more than we do. And if we can read through the scripture and not draw that out, we're missing it.
Yeah.
Because there are kids who, I don't even know, you go to the DFPS website, there's thousands of kids that are sitting in offices and home all over Texas.
Yeah.
That are waiting to go into a foster home. There are kids waiting to be adopted. And if we sit back and use that as justification, our own personal emotions or situation or whatever the case is, to justify not doing something, I mean,
Can't justify that.
Your emotions on the day a child leaves or possibly leaves to have to go back home is probably 1/10 of the emotions that a child is feeling when they get removed from their home.
Right.
And so just take that into perspective and take a helicopter view of what this really is, because it's not about you.
No.
It's about the child, it's about the situation, and it's about the gospel.
Absolutely.
Really, really big picture. So that was one of our fears even going into this, and especially when we were in it, because there were multiple times where that was a reality,
right.
A real fear that our kids would be removed from our home and go into a situation that we knew was not safe.
Absolutely.
For them. It was not in their best interest, though it was set up to be that way.
Yeah.
And that was where peace came, because if not, we were, sleepless nights, high anxiety. And the battle of the wills and the minds begins to take hold, and at some point you just have to give it over to God and say, look, you love these kids more than I do, which is hard to fathom.
Right.
God, we love our own kids. God loves them more than we do.
Yeah.
And we have to know, we have to have faith. We have to hold them with open palms, knowing that
no matter what happens.
No matter what, if they go back home to a situation that we look and see as unsafe, let's remember that our perspective is finite.
Yes, and the verse that I clung to 2 verses, and that first one was, God works all things for good for those who love him and are called according to his glory. So that was huge. Like, okay, Lord, I'm trusting you, and I know that no matter what, you are going to work this for your glory. And just trying to rest in him. I went through this twice. Once with the first set, with Gabe, Gideon, and Grace. And then I went through a really difficult depression with Jenny Kate too. Just not knowing. I would say it was probably the worst with Jenny Kate. And it was very, very, very difficult for me, because this is crazy, but I would begin to mourn her before she was gone. So anytime we would do something, I would just have these thoughts like, oh, this is going to be our first and last Thanksgiving together, or this is going to be our first and last Christmas together, or it was just really unhealthy. And I reached out to one of my good friends who had lost her daughter, and I just said, how do you do this? Like, how do you walk through this? How do you walk through each day and not, grieve every moment? Because Eric would get home from work and I would just be crying all the time, because it was a lot for me to process. And I was just so worried. I was so worried because we knew the cycle. We knew the hard places that their family had come from. And we just so desperately wanted something so different for our kids. And, we've gotten to see, we're just a month out from, probably a month or 2 out from adopting Jenny now. We're so close, but it was so incredibly difficult and gut-wrenching. And I can't tell you the amount of times I just had to get on my face before the Lord and cry my eyes out and say, God, help me. I'm just scared. I'm fearful. And again, it's just that spirit of fear, God, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And God was just telling me, just calm down, chill out. I've got this. Just trust me. But it's hard. It's hard when you're walking through it. So if you're a foster mom and you're walking through that, let me just affirm you, you are not alone. It is a lot to process. And knowing your kids' stories, and knowing that you just want so much more for them, it is hard. So just keep praying and surround yourself with good people who can constantly check on you or check on your family. Or I had friends who would just just stop by. Heather Harvey would just stop by my house all the time. She would bring me books. She would bring me coffee. She would bring me, and sometimes she'd just bring me hugs. She wouldn't even call. should just come by my house. And I mean, there are just no words for friends like that. I mean,
it's a testament to community.
Yeah,
I mean, as
absolutely.
a church, that's what we're called to do, is to live in community. And as we get into some later videos that are coming in a few weeks, let's really kind of take a session and dive into that, because what does community look like? What does family look like? And how does that play out in the church today? Because I'm sure I know there's people out there who want to be involved in fostering and adoption, but don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity to do that, to take a child into their home, but they still want to be involved in some way. And so those are things that we're going to break down too as well. But for those who are looking to get involved at this level, there are classes that need to be taken. I would advise you to find an agency to partner with. There's a lot of investigation that needs to take place early on, so that you can kind of find your place in this realm,
right?
And begin to plug yourself into a network of people that can provide you with those answers. And so we're kind of plugged into one of those networks now. Having lived in Houston and now I'm back in Fort Worth again, we've kind of got some people that are all over the map, and we continue to grow that network, because I'll say this: the Orphan Care Network, the Orphan Care family is a family. Because if you've walked a mile in their shoes, you just know.
Yeah.
Our friends Sean and Carmen, who are in the midst of fostering and adopting and all that stuff, we can not see them for 3-4 months and have dinner and pick up right in the conversation where we left off, because it's just you're in it.
That's right.
And so if you're not plugged in to a community of believers, we're part of a great one.
We're part of this awesome church. It's called Vantage Point.
May have heard of it
in Haslett. But
it's a great place of people who are genuine, and you walk in the door and find that. I feel like this is like a plug. We need like a website or something at the bottom. Oh, anyway, genuine people just loving God, loving on each other, loving the community, and just living out the gospel. Fantastic.
Yes.
It's a place that we like to call home, and so there's a lot of great stuff going on there, going on in our lives. We've got one more adoption.
One more.
That
We're
is looming
there.
in the distance. We're just waiting on government paperwork to get all this stuff solidified.
So hard.
And we want to continue to be a resource for those of you who are trying to get involved in this in some way, form, or fashion. So stay tuned to the ones that are coming up.
Yes.
We have some people that we want to bring in and interview in front of you guys, so that you have the same opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
And so we're going to be sending out those invitations in the next few hours.
Yes.
So if you're on here, you may be getting one.
You might be getting an invitation.
And
I've prepped a few people.
We want to bring some people on who are in different areas of this stream.
Right.
Who are adopting, who are fostering, who are involved in the backside of things, who were an adopted child and are now an adult.
Right.
So you can kind of see all places in the spectrum.
And we want to. We'd like to highlight some. Obviously other foster families, people who have done straight adoptions that we know just went through like a private agency, or even people who've done international adoption, because we just want you guys to be informed. Orphan care is such an enormous part of our heart and our family. It's God's calling on our lives as Christians. So to care for the widow and the orphan. So it's just figuring out, what is my part? Maybe your part is not to take a child home. That's not everybody's role. But you're called to do something. And so we just want to help you find that niche. We want to raise awareness, because 3 years ago, we lived in a bubble. We lived in a super comfy bubble. Where, we knew bad things happen to kids and their kids in foster care, but we didn't realize, how bad that was. And I remember the first time, really hearing about stuff that kids in our local neighborhood were going through, and it created just a great unrest. There was no way I could go to bed comfortably knowing there were so many children who needed good homes. kids who were getting bounced around to different placements, siblings who were being separated from one another because there was not a home to take them all. I could not go to bed at night and sleep knowing that there were kids going without when I had more than enough. We had more than enough space to share. We had more than enough love to try to give. We had food in our pantry and in our fridge. So why would we not open up our home? Like, this was God's call for us. Why would we not share those things? How can we go to bed knowing that kids are completely going without? So
if I don't know that we have the authority to do this, but if we could leave you with homework, can we do that?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. Here's your assignment for today. Find or think of a family or couple that's in your life right now that is currently or has fostered or adopted at some point, and reach out to them and let them know you're praying for them.
Yeah.
Let them know you're thinking about them.
Yeah.
You could do that with like just a small gift of some sort, just small, like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just encourage someone who's in neck deep.
In the trenches.
Just encourage them. Yeah. Let them know that you're thinking about them, that you're loving on them, and make that be a regular thing. Put a reminder on your calendar. We put a reminder on our calendar for everything.
Yes.
So why not put a reminder on your calendar to once a month go and drop a line with somebody like, hey, we're thinking about you.
Yeah, good job.
We love you. Slow clap.
Like, way to do the hard thing.
Exactly.
Way to do the hard thing. Because you know what? I guarantee you, the foster parents in your life, the adoptive parents in your life, just because the kids are adopted doesn't mean things get easy. Like, that's a whole nother life. But,
I just saw Maria Valdivia. That's one.
Maria. Oh my gosh. Maria and Jose.
Jose and Maria.
For real.
Hats off.
Yes.
To you guys.
Were amazing.
Instrumental.
Yeah, they came in, helped me figure out how to cornrow because I had no clue. Yeah. I had no clue really like how to do black hair. So that's still a struggle.
Whole nother episode
I'm still learning.
Itself.
But yeah. Anyway. Oh, and Cody Powell.
It's Cody. Cody, I can't answer you currently. I'm a little busy.
We're on a live.
We'll leave you with that. So take that, use that, and go reach out to someone this week. Let them know you're thinking about them.
Do you want to show them the book?
And
or no?
Yeah, but really quick. We could snap photos of these or something. So we have some books that we use for different things. All in Orphan Care by
Jason Johnson.
Jason Johnson. This is a fantastic small group curriculum that you can use. Great book.
And
very
it breaks
skinny.
down. It's
very
so skinny.
Adopted for Life, Russell Moore.
Read this book. I just bought this for my friend. It's so good.
Read it. Here's another one. This
The Beauty and Brokenness of
forwarded
Foster
by Mark
Care.
Tennant and Jason Johnson again. The Beauty and Brokenness of Foster Care.
Yes.
Along the same lines as All In.
Yes.
The Connected Child.
Which is like the foster and adoptive parent Bible.
Yeah,
you cannot be a foster and adoptive. And look at this, guys. Do you see this? Like, you should see the highlights.
I tried to tell her you can't dog ear every page.
Everything was so important.
Because it defeats the purpose of the dog ear.
But in the beginning, I was like,
just highlight the whole book.
Hold on. You're exhibiting this behavior. What do I say? Oh, wait a minute. Who is the boss? I am the boss. That's right. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
I still use that. I had to look
one of
that
the
up,
last
though.
ones that we try to hand off to everybody who gets involved in fostering. We bought a whole bunch of copies of this.
Yes, it's called Ready or Not by Pam Parrish. And
quick,
it's great devotional.
30-day devotional for parents who are kind of getting involved in this. And so
yes,
a lot
and
of good
walking
stuff
through
in
it. I think we should do that one again, actually. Anyway, so that was a lot of shaking. Yeah, this is going to be so great. So if you want to, right now, if you want to strengthen your marriage before you even start this journey, join us at Vantage Point, definitely, while we walk through that. And then in November, we're going to do, I guess Eric and Dustin are going to go through a whole sermon series on orphan care. So we are so excited that we get to partner with the church that we love, BP. and do this, but we're also just super blessed. It's foster care and adoption, and it's changed our life. You know, a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, wow, this is so great. You guys are so great. You're changing the lives of kids. But really, like, when you look at it, you're like, man, these kids are coming into our home and they're changing our lives. They're helping us to be so much, like, less selfish, because we were completely selfish before. They're helping us to look beyond things that don't really matter.
Yep.
And it's the greatest blessing we've ever, ever had. It's just adding to our family, being able to be foster parents, and now, walking into that season of being completely adopted, like everybody adopted. So
let me end with this. You can't talk anymore.
Okay, I won't talk anymore.
So, I always tell people this because people come and ask different questions. They're inquiring minds. Maybe God's put like a little ounce of stuff on their heart for foster care, adoption, orphan care. If you are even in the realm of having that conversation, and the question you're asking yourself is this something I should do? Is this something that God's called me to do? Is this God's plan for my life? I will tell you an emphatic yes.
Definitely.
Yes. Stop questioning it. It's
Just
yes.
do it. Just say
because
yes.
I'm telling you this. And I'm completely sold out to this realm of thinking that God, if God has put it on your heart and you're even asking the question, then the answer is yes. The answer is yes. You can't read through Scripture and not see that.
Yeah.
It's you can't.
Yeah.
Adoption is our story. Adoption is the gospel.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to stop for this evening. If you have any more questions, you can put them in the
Drop
comments
them in
here.
the comments.
You can private message us at any time, all the time. Just don't expect an answer late at night, because we put our kids to bed at 8, and we don't get them back out of bed till 8. So we sleep.
We don't
12
sleep.
hours.
We are up to like midnight every night.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye.